Hey everyone, George here. Welcome back to Aquatic Concepts. Today we're going to be talking about this 55-gallon custom all-in-one behind me. We're going to dive into a lot of the mechanics and the equipment that's going to be used in this tank to really make this tank a one-of-a-kind and a beautiful tank, I hope. We're going to talk about filtration, we're going to talk about heaters, we're going to talk about supplemental filtration as far as a external canister filter on this, and a ton of stuff. So hang in there with me and we will be right back. So again, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about the mechanics of this 55 behind me. I know it has been a process to get this thing going, and I'm just now getting all of the equipment that I need to get this thing up and running. It's really been hard to find everything as far as hardscape, wood, filtration parts. Every time I turn around, there's been some issues with this, but mainly today we're going to focus on the filtration. We're going to talk about the tank itself, how it works. We're going to talk about supplemental filtration, as I said in the intro into this, and we're going to be working with a seachem 200, which is called the Whale. Now, I've never worked with this external filter before, canister filter, and but I've heard a lot of great things about it. It's an Italian-made product, and everyone tells me that it is absolutely fantastic. So we're going to work with that a little bit and talk about how that's going to fit into this particular system here. And we're not going to do an unboxing today. We'll leave that for another video, but we are going to talk about why we're going to put this external filtration on there, which is something I do with all of my tanks if I can. So let's jump into the filtration on this. Number one, we have 8, this is an all-in-one, as I said, and we do have 8 compartments in the back of this, and I'm going to work from this side right now because really this side mirrors everything on this side, and then in the middle here is where your pumps are. So let's start out with the pumps on this and talk a little bit about what we're going to be using. Now, I do not use the pumps that come with these simply because they're not top quality. So what I like to do is use something that I'm familiar with and I've researched and I've had some kind of history with. In this case, we're talking about the Aquatop SWP 2300s, which give us 607 gallons per hour of turnover. So in other words, we're filtering 607 gallons per hour per filter, or not filter, per pump. So that's a lot of filtration. And the reason for that is I like to give as much filtration to a tank as I possibly can, and I never believe that you can over-filter a tank. You can over-filter it in the sense that you're adding new stuff all the time and messing around with the nitrogen cycle and stuff like that, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your initial setup and some of the things that you want to do to kind of hack your system or pimp your system out a little bit. And that's what we're going to do with these 2 pumps that I was just talking about, the Aquatops. Now let's talk about filtration here. Now both ends, like I said, mirror each other. The first section back here, of course, is going to have a water sock. There's also one on this end down here, and this guy is going to fit right in here. And we are going to have 2 of those. So like I said, one on each end. And water socks, if you're familiar with them, are something that really catches a lot of the stuff that's coming through your overflows here at the top, and then that stuff gets caught in there. The water gets filtered through there a little bit and then goes into your main filter chamber. Now the next chamber over, and that would be right next to this here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our ceramic at the bottom. That's where you always want this ceramic media to go. is in the very bottom of the tank. People do it different ways. I'm just telling you the way that I believe it should be done, and so I want to make sure you understand what we're doing here. But that filtration will go down in here in these bags into this little channel. I'm going to drop it down in there. And then the next thing that's going in there is these bio balls. Now, most of you are familiar with these. If you have an aquarium, this is where your colonized bacteria, your good bacteria, is going to stick to, along with the ceramics, same thing. I do both because I, like I said, like to colonize as much good bacteria as I possibly can and filter out as much as I possibly can the system. So that would go in there next. That goes right down in there in that same chamber, just sits right on top of it. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to put a sponge in here. Now, I cut my own sponge. I buy sponge in bulk like this here, and I cut pieces basically on the size that I need them. And in this particular case, this has been cut to the size of this particular chamber. And what we'll do is we'll stick that down in there. And that is the last part of our filtration for that particular chamber. Now the next chamber over is identical to that, so we would do the same thing. We would put ceramic in there, we would put the bio balls in there, and then we would also top that off with sponge, and then we'll move over to our pump chambers here. Now in the pump chamber is where I like to put my heater. Now in this particular case, we're talking about a 200 watt smart digital heater here. This is made by, it's made by Smart Thermal. And I use these in all of my tanks. They come by a couple of different names, but they're really the same company. This is 200 watts, so I will be using that in this middle chamber here, which is just one chamber of where the pumps will go. And this is going to give us plenty of ability to raise the temperature as much as we want, from 78 degrees up to, if I want to, go up to 88 degrees if I'm trying to cure a disease or medicate fish or whatever. It's something that I can easily get to. Now, the one thing that you're going to notice a lack of here, and that is charcoal. I don't use charcoal much. I believe that sponges, as much as you can put sponges in your system, you're just way better off. I just don't like using the charcoal because if you have to medicate the tank, then you're digging all around and you're making a mess out of it. And I just don't feel that the charcoal is necessary. Now, when I'm using the supplemental filtration, which means the canister filter, that seachem that I was talking about, the Italian-made canister, there will be some charcoal in there, but I can just flip the switch on that and turn that off anytime I want to, and remove that charcoal very easily if there's ever a problem where I need to medicate. So that's something that I will allow charcoal in that particular situation. But as far as the chambers in the back of this tank go, I'm not going to be using anything that has any carbon or charcoal in it. Now again, this chamber and this chamber both have pumps in them, and then we get back to the same situation as we had over here. We have two chambers with ceramic, bio balls, and sponge. Same thing here, ceramic, bio ball, sponge, and then last we have our water sock over on this corner over here. So we have the two water socks that I talked about. And that is pretty much it, really, for the filtration on this. Now, what I will be doing with the external canister on here is that will be pumped from down below. There are, on this piece of granite here, there are two holes in that corner over there. That will come up and will filter in and out of this back chamber back here. It will not be in the tank at all, so you won't even be able to see it. All you'll see is the two little small arms that are going into the tank, and it'll be dead silent because it'll be underneath here, and it's a very, very quiet canister filter to begin with. So we have a real ideal situation here. Now, A lot of are saying, why are you using a supplemental canister filter? As I said, I like to be able to filter as much as I possibly can, have as much surface area for bacterial colonies, good bacterial colonies to grow. And once that nitrogen cycle has completed and your system's in really, really good shape, it's just really nice to have all that extra filtration in there and all these areas where that colonies of bacteria can stick to. So putting an extra canister filter on my tanks is just something that I do. You don't have to do that. You don't want to spend the money on it. I certainly understand that. And I'm not saying you have to have that. That is certainly up to you. What we have here is certainly good enough for this particular tank. I'm just going a little overboard because I like to pimp my tanks a little bit and I like to do little hacks here and there. Now, one last thing before we end this first part of this video series. It's going to be a three-part series, three-part series on this particular tank, and the next part is going to deal with the hardscaping. Now, some of you have noticed that I already have been playing around a little bit with the hardscape in here, but I'm not too sure about these rocks, and I'm kind of going back and forth between these and some black rock that is some real heavy lava rock, not the real porous stuff, but some South American lava rock that's really, really heavy. I have some coming that has not arrived yet, but we're going to see what that looks like in there. But I've been going back and forth on this. Now, those of you who have been watching my last couple of videos and we haven't been talking about this tank have sort of been looking at this and saying, hey, I like what you already got back there, just keep that. Well, that would be nice, except for I'm not sure what kind of fish are going in here, number one, and number two, there's not really a lot of contrast between this orangish brown sand and the rocks. Even though the rocks, when they're wet, they do get a little bit darker, it's just not enough contrast for me, so I'm kind of playing around with it. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to end up with this, because in the end I may just decide this is a real nice look and this is what we're going to end up with. So leave your comments down below if you have any suggestions on how this tank should end up and what I should put in this tank, because I haven't committed to anything yet as far as fish in here, with the exception of my cleanup crew, which I do in every tank, but I don't have any real commitments at this point as to what kind of fish I'm going to end up in here. Let me know what you think. You know, it is a 55 gallon, so there's some limitations there on the size of fish that we can put in here, but I'm looking for something that's this is going to be kind of an open concept. There will be some plants and stuff in here that are basically going to be on these two little islands here, but we're not going to have a ton of plants. We're going to have a lot of room for fish to move around, and that's going to be really the focal point here, is giving fish room to swim. Anyways, leave your comments down below. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Please share with your friends, and also subscribe if you have not subscribed already. Our subscriptions are going up. It's not as fast as I would like, but the bottom line is I never got into this to be in a race to reach, 100,000 people following me and that sort of thing. Do not forget that starting next month, we do have a podcast that we're going to be doing on Thursday nights at 6 o'clock West Coast time, and that will be on Thursday evenings, and we'll start doing that in the middle of next month. I don't remember the exact date, but I will put that down below. Again, if you have any questions, leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching me today, and I hope this wasn't too long of a video. I was just trying to show you what we were planning on doing with this tank, and if you have any more suggestions, or you think that there's something that I'm doing here that I could do better, please leave those comments down below. And again, I will also leave information about the seachem external canister, which we will be doing a video on between now and the next video about this tank. We're going to do an unboxing of that seachem canister filter external, and we'll learn a lot more about that. Until then, thank you for watching me today. I really appreciate it. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and don't forget to watch that bell up at the top here. If you haven't turned that bell on, turn it on. That gives you an opportunity anytime I have a new video coming out to get it firsthand. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you on the next one. Until then, we are out of here.